Welcome to the Masculinities Group Dialogue. Today, the Men Masculinities staff are joined by Dr. Jamie Patton, who is the Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs overseeing diversity and inclusion on campus. And we will once again be talking about the topic for this year's Movember at Cal Poly, which is Black men's health. Before we jump right in, I would like to say welcome and thank you for being here, Dr. Patton.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, you are the Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs, overseeing diversity and inclusion, but I'd love if you could share a little bit about who you are as an individual inside and outside of that role.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. J, I was born and raised in a small city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Actually, not so small. But no, I'm from the East Coast, and I'm blessed. I was blessed to have a strong mother and two praying grandmothers who always saw something different in me and said you were going to college and or you're going to do things, you're going to do something in life. And I often talk about how they either wanted me to be a doctor or a preacher. So hopefully I met them in the middle. I'm not the doctor that they wanted me to be, but sometimes I get to preach and share a good word and good message to students and hopefully inspire the next generation. I went to a small, predominantly white institution or historically white institution in Pennsylvania for my undergrad. And yeah, it was an experience like no other. I know they talk about learn by doing here at Cal Poly, but at my undergrad institution, I had many of the same experiences that y'all had both inside and outside of the classroom, getting a chance to lead, especially in really coming into my own as a first generation Pell Grant eligible Black student in that space. I really had a chance to really understand what it meant, and I wanted to always be a part of that. Essentially, I said to myself, I never want to leave college, so essentially, I found a way to stay on college campuses, getting my master's and my doctorate degree in educational leadership, and serving in several capacities, and really doing what I love to do, and that is serving students, creating environments where everybody feels welcome, creating environments where students feel like they belong, and really lifting up the voices for students and identities that may not be at the forefront of other administrators or staff on the campus. So I have been here at Cal Poly since 2017. It's been an amazing experience. My partner and our two children are having a ball here. And like I shared with you all earlier, we just we completed our family with a pandemic puppy a little over a week ago, and that's going well. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me and why I choose to continue to serve.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your story and a little bit of yourself there. So I really appreciate that. It is the final week of Movember here at Cal Poly, and we wanted to come back to this topic that we've been using to direct our program for the last couple of weeks, which is, of course, Black men's health. And we kind of wanted to use this space to look at how that topic specifically relates to Cal Poly and the broader community that it's seated in. So, with that in mind, first question I have for you is creating conversations or discussions around Black men's health, something you consider to be important or, impactful?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and for more reasons than just one. Branching and broaching this conversation, I'm really thankful that student diversity and belonging really adapted to and thought about centering the Black voice or the Black experience for this academic year. But in particular, when you talk about Black men's health and or creating the conversation, it's impactful, for the Black man in itself to open up the space to begin to talk about our health, to begin to talk about not just our physical, but our mental health and other areas of healthiness, healthy eating, And for the campus to understand, like, boom, this is an important, another part of who we are as Mustangs, our Black men, our Black males. I think elevating the conversation allows and enables all students and or those who engage the opportunity to understand the experiences, the cumulative experiences over decades and centuries of the Black male and the things that have contributed to some of the issues and challenges that we have around Black men's health. So, and it really, this pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, plays a key part because, as we know, it's affecting disproportionately Black and Brown communities here in the state of California. It's our Latinx community, but there are other communities where it's Black folk and Black men who continue to contribute. Those who are many of whom are essential workers, and how people really choose to engage and or not engage with wearing masks and being safe. And so elevating, anytime we can talk about or elevate the conversation, I think it's good. And again, even going back to where I started, even for the Black men to know that we do matter, our health matters, and we need to do whatever we need to do to take care of ourselves and take care of our families.
Absolutely. And what you were saying there, actually, I was speaking to a alumni recently for our virtual speaker series episode, which will be released very soon. Brandon Roll, and he actually came in. He talked a little bit about Black individuals and the medical community and the health impacts that racial inequality drives for Black men in the country, Black boys in general, because there's this history, there's this long-standing history of racial injustice coming into and impacting the health of Black men in the country. So it's about spreading awareness, and that's something we're hoping to do with Movember this year, especially, is increasing that awareness.
Absolutely.
So that not only Black individuals can approach their own health, but other people who are involved in the health industry and health fields can come in and recognize these disparities that are going to impact Black individuals.
Absolutely.
My question for you is, how do you see your role as an administrator as a way to advance the mental, physical, and holistic health of Black students, particularly Black men on campus?
Thank you, B, for that question. I think just modeling, being a model. I often tell my two little daughters, you can't be what you can't see. And so just being one of few African-American male staff members or administrators or faculty members on our campus. And I think a way that I can advance the conversation is being part of the conversation. So spending time with you all today, I think as I do my work within diversity and inclusion, and as I look at the different departments within the Division of Student Affairs, and we look at our diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, practices, and procedures, how can we be sure that, again, we're outreaching and we're connecting to Black men, that they're accessing the resources that are part of their right on our campus, being a part of the conversation, me being present, me being someone who Black men, all men, and let's be clear, when I serve all students. I'm here to serve every Cal Poly student, no matter how you identify, race, gender, religion, however you identify, even political affiliation. I exist to serve all students. But looking at this being a historically white institution, there are not many folk that identify like me as a Black male. And so I do feel a responsibility to be sure that I'm engaging my colleagues through, again, in student affairs, looking at our policies, practices, and procedures, being available to students that access the Black Academic Excellence Center, the Multicultural Center, making sure that our Black men know that, again, they are here and we see them, we feel them, and we're going to be here to support them in any way that you can, any way that we can. Even just being around. So sometimes I do visit um, uh, 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 student organizational meetings like the NESB meetings, just so students know, and not just and the Black Student Union. I visit, this Friday I actually went and spent some time with our men's basketball team. We have several African American Black players there on our team this year, along with the Black coach. But letting them know that we are here and we see you and we want to be there to support you. So that's my role. One of the hats that I wear, and I wear it proudly. Even when I think about my experience at the undergraduate level, my first advisor, Dr. Robert D. Lynch, and he was one of the first Black men that I came in contact with, and he was special assistant to the president. And so that gave me an insight to a path and a special insight to how I can get involved and get engaged. And that's what I try to do today. As I see one, I reach one, and then we aim to teach one.
Yeah, just listening in. I'm gonna be the next question person,
Okay.
but just listening in and kind of listening to your ideas and how you play your role in this community. We also have to take account like the experiences of the students outside campus communities.
Yes.
So what's the most important thing for you that you believe in that can be done to address the benefit of the health of Black men and masculine identifying individuals in SLO and around the United States?
Yeah. Well, part of it, I think, is, it's bigger than, it's creating a community. I think that's what we need to do. Like, for example, when I first moved here, I looked for a Black doctor. And unfortunately, I haven't found one. Family healthcare. I can drive to Santa Barbara, other communities, but I was looking, so creating a network of healthcare providers, mental health providers, churches, or just faith-based organizations, where folk can really find their community, find their niche, find the folk that they know that they can lean on when they're here. And I think we do a decent job. We do a decent job here in San Luis. Decent. We can do better because we do, we have contacts in various places, but majority of those folk, majority of the connections come from Cal Poly. So as we begin to expand the network off campus and we begin to expand our partnerships with those folk, that folk of color, in particular, Black folk. I wish we had a barbershop. That is the hub of just the Mecca. In some ways, it's its own organic community of itself, which really contributes to the health and the mental health of Black men, especially. One of the things, it's nothing. You can't tell me a thing when I'm freshly shaved, when my head is clean, when I'm tight, and just that confidence boost from being in that chair and spending time. When you think about Black men's health, and when you think about the institutions in which we were raised, when I think about that barbershop experience growing up, just being able to sit there, and although sometimes it's like, man, I'm sitting here for 2 hours waiting for a cut, but the conversation, and even the conversation, but as well, when I think about it, our barbers as counselors, because they hear a lot. They're not just stylists, but they are there and they're engaging in, the work that we do. So I think in essence, we do a decent job. I wish we had I wish we lived in an area in San Luis Obispo was a place where more folk of color and/or Black identified Black men lived, and Black professional men lived, with regard to, like, again, healthcare providers, mental health providers. But we can continue to grow. And I think, again, what we do at Cal Poly with the Cal Poly Black Alumni Association and with the Black Faculty Staff Association, I'm hoping that we do create a semi-community for our students. But I think we can do better across the United States. We can do better, but it's it's really focusing on not how far we've come, but where we need to go and the work that we need to do. We can't be relaxed on that. And I think that was evident over the last 4 years. Again, yes, a lot of things have changed. But as we look at the images from this summer, and if we were to put a black and white filter on it, it could very, very easily be 1968. And so we must continue to seek and look at how far we still need to go and keep our, we say this, and keep our eye on the diamond in the sky. That's what it's about.
Yeah, thank you. And it's very true, coming across, like, community building is something that we're always looking forward to and trying to connect to, because in a sense, that's kind of our way to express ourselves, as men, like, in general, or like as people. That's where we go towards, and that's how we grow. So thank you.
The challenge though becomes, again, is so as I season a little bit, as I get a little older, it's like, how do we find ways to connect? I used to see myself as the big brother, and then it was like, okay, now Dr. J, he's the fun uncle, but now it's like, no, I'm the pops, and so it's like, how do we find ways to make those connections and build the programs and work in partnership with the students to find ways to see the things that they would like to see, the experiences that they would like to have, because that's what it's all about. And when I think about it, that was the experience that was provided for me by Dr. Lynch and Dr. Green, and then those who came with the shoulders of which I stand on. They allowed me to create my experience, but they cut the path and they made it easier for me to get there. And that's what I need to do. And that's going to be something that we continue to make happen. Absolutely.
Thank you. I'll pass the mic on to our coordinator, Nick.
Hey.
Thanks, Christian. Yeah, wow, this has been a lot to chew on. And yeah, so Jamie's just thinking about the moment that we're in, and what you're talking about, like, if you put a black and white lens on the last 8 months, 10 months, it could be 1968. And one thing that really comes to mind for me when we're thinking about Black men's health is just the current status of our country, and what that brings on in terms of everything from stress, anxiety, disappointment, anger. There's all these emotions and pressures that are coming up, and within that, the opportunity to think about, like, well, how do I find joy, and how do I find resilience? In some ways, I feel like that can be stolen from Black men specifically, because of the environment. And so, and I think, there's like the racial piece too, but then there's like the masculinities piece where, speaking from that end, I think, this, like, well, how do you find joy in your life, or how do you, pursue, like, mental health or well-being? Like, those aren't questions that get asked to us, or get offered up to us. And so, so the next question being, how do you continue to find joy and resilience, and, like accommodating and navigating stress in your own life? And what are some things that you found as, like, helpful things to pass on to folks who might be listening?
The last 9 months have been real. And so how do I find joy? And quiet as kept, it took me a while to get to where I'm at now, where I feel like my anxiety is not to say under control, but I'm able to identify the ways of joy, to find joy, and able to execute those things and really map things out. But it took a while, but primarily it wasn't until maybe August, so like month 4 or 5, that's like, get back to the foundation. What is your foundation? What things bring, again, you joy, those things. And so for me, it was family. And granted, with my local family, we call ourselves Patton Newbury. My partner and my 2 girls and now my puppy, we weren't really able to find that joy because we were home all the time, the whole summer, on Zoom, not on Zoom. It's been intense, and it's like we are just here. And we actually got away for a week. I want to say that first week in August, and it was like we all just unplugged for a week, and it's like 7 solid days and really got back to playing games, doing puzzles, and really enjoying our family, the family that we created, that my partner and I have created. And then to add on to that, became the element of family, extended family. So thinking about my mother and my grandmother. So really getting back to communicating regularly, weekly, twice a week with grandma, because sometimes just a 5-minute conversation with grandma Corrine, it's like, oh, man, that's just what I needed. And we may not talk about nothing but the weather or what's going on in Philly, but just to hear the joy and to hear, her asking about my life here in California and making connections to, I began to garden a few years ago, but the connection to my great grandmother and great grandfather who worked farms, plantations, and different spaces, and then build their own business in North Carolina, and finding that connection and, bringing her joy through, something I see as teaching my girls how to make our own food and be thankful for the soil and the water and the sun and understanding the process. But then finding that deeper connection with my grandmother was critical. Then I had to layer on faith. And so getting back into finding ways to make meaning, faith meaning for myself and my family. So, spending time meditating, going on long walks, and finding ways to, again, slow things down, disconnect from electronics, disconnect from everything that's happening in the world, because it can consume us. It can literally suck the energy and the air out of us. And then, my work with students, my work with my amazing student diversity and belonging team, as we continue to connect and share our stories about living in a pandemic, working through a pandemic. But then how do we continue to serve our students at the best level that we possibly can in a virtual world? That was no easy feat, but, finding the joy into seeing their energy, the creative energy. And I really believe when we come out of this, hopefully soon, but when we come out of this, we're going to be able to serve students at another level, both virtually and in person. And it's going to be amazing. We're going to be able to engage with students, and not just Cal Poly students. I think about our Cuesta students, our Hancock students that might be coming into the fold here at Cal Poly. We're going to be able to really extend our network, and that's really exciting to me. So those are the things that find me joy is faith. And I think all of that to say it's just faith, and being able to lean on that, and going back to that foundation of family, faith, and community.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love how like family and relationships. I feel like that was such a thread throughout that whole, that and I think, that the point you made about how COVID, it's just like Zoom, and the disconnection, and how you got to fight for that, huh? Like you really like the intentionality behind, like, we're gonna call grandma once a week.
We even started, it created another connection even with family, where we're teaching, my daughters are teaching their great grandma how to Zoom and how to FaceTime and stuff like that, so we can do video chat, because we haven't been to Philly in 2 years. And so it's like, but watching them explain, okay, look for the green button, and when you see the green button, it'll say accept the call, and then you got to flip your camera around and stuff like that. It's like that's really dope. Like, and it just brought that joy.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's amazing. One more follow-up question, and then I think we're almost at time. Was there any point that you were talking about just like at one point you were like, I gotta unplug, we need to get away with the family and reconnect. Like, did you sense like that required, I don't know, like any level of discipline, or like how was that experience just like unplugging from like the norm and getting back to the fundamentals of like family, you know, enjoying, slowing down, that kind of thing?
Actually, it was pretty easy because, you know, because we needed it. It was I think this was the first time that we've done that type of trip where we were visiting family. Because a lot of our family vacations, since we started having little ones, have been going to see family. So visiting Philly one time, oh my God, we visited 6 states in 8 days, seeing family. And that's not a vacation. Because we're constantly in the car, constantly, you know, I got to go to the bathroom. Okay, I need you to hold it for another hour and a half. You know, it's stress. And so, you know, this one, it was like, no, we're going to a place where we're going to be there for 8 days, 7 days, 8 days. And, you know, it took 3 hours to get there. So that was kind of the opportunity to unplug that first dose, just getting there. And then once we got there, let's do the exploring. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, okay, what are the rules? Well, first we got to clean the room, clean the space, wipe everything down during COVID to make sure we're at a good space. And then like, okay, this is gonna be dope. And then okay, saying this is what we're gonna do. And we watched movies together. Again, we played games, but really focusing on, you know what? No, we're not on social media. We barely, I want to say, watch the news, and really just did the thing. But it really took, I think, it was the atmosphere of not having to hustle and bustle from point A to point B. Like, okay, here are our 3 meals for the day. I think we went grocery shopping, or I know I went grocery shopping. So we stocked up on our food. We had a grill, and we just made it convenient. We supported local businesses a couple evenings and brought dinner in from local businesses where we went to. But really, it was just the opportunity to do things that the family loved to do. So 2 hours at the pool per day. Like, I learned that I can get sunburned this summer. I didn't know that, but I can. So and I'm glad that we did it, because we weren't at a breaking point or a tipping point. It was just the right thing to do. It's like, you know, we just need to do something different, because at that point, you know, we had all been home since like March 13th or March 16th or something like that. And so by the time we got to late June, it was like, all right, we got to do something. We got to do something. And how can we do it safely? We didn't want to be reckless. We didn't want to, you know, we had a couple of ideas, but it's like, and then in addition to that, we didn't want to take the virus with us to family. So it's like, okay, so we need to do this as a nucleus. So in some ways, it really gave us an opportunity to really say, this is something that we need to do regularly, if not annually. You know, we're blessed to have different things that we can take advantage of to do this type of thing, and we just need to make it happen.
Yeah. Wow. Like, thanks for that's what I was hearing in that too is like, when you're thinking about like how do I find, you know, resilience, how do I pursue joy, how do I infuse that into my life? Sometimes it's like a trial and error. Like, you got to try things, and sometimes like the silver lining of a difficult situation like right now is that you kind of get pushed in a new direction, and so yeah, just like that whole process of well, here's our options, here's what we got to do, and then realizing like, whoa, this is really what we needed. So thanks for sharing all that. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
I'll pass it to Aiden.
Absolutely. Thank you for those powerful words and your insight. You know, I hope our viewers find some inspiration or some guidance from what you've shared so far, you know, because it really is impactful. And we are coming down to the end of our episode, but I would like to ask you just one last question.
Okay.
It's pretty interpretive, but what advice or wisdom or insight would you like to pass on to future generations of Black men, masculine identifying individuals at Cal Poly or beyond that?
1 second. Pressure makes diamonds, and Black men, we need to continue to shine bright. We've done some great and amazing work, but we have to be okay with taking care of ourselves, sharing when we're hurt, sharing when we need help, asking for help. And I know that's tough, and I know we're strong and we're capable, but I'm hoping that we get to a place where everyone values Black men's health. But I think I know that it does start with us when we become adults, when we become men. We have to do what we need to do to take care of ourselves and our families. And I think anything else, again, pressure makes diamonds, but sometimes we need a little help, and don't hesitate to ask for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that concludes this episode. I want to say thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That a lot of what you said, it resonates with what we've been working with this past Movember. And I hope our viewers do take a little bit away from this episode.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, thank you for watching. And I'd like to give one last reminder about the Movember events that we have planned for this week. That includes the release of the Speaker Series Episode 3 with Brandon Roll, the episode that we're filming right now. I hope that you enjoyed it. And then we have the Men of Color Dialogue podcast being released this Wednesday, as well as the workshop part 2 with Dr. Jamal Myrick. That is a live event, so make sure to register for that. And then after that, we have our closing keynote with Blake Williams on Thursday. So also make sure to register for that as well. And then following Friday, we will have the TPOC dialogue as well. So that concludes this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more about any of these events or our program, make sure to check out the links down below. Thank you.